Today's episode's brought to you by
The easiest schedule in the world, seeding Florida #1 in the May tournament based off of beating the worst two teams in the league 7 times.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. A pretty good week of Overwatch League in the books. Really enjoyed this past weekend's meta quite a bit. So excited to talk about it a little bit here.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about some other things that we may have alluded to in the in the opener about just how arbitrary and just how much we love the May tournament and how fair and balanced it will be. I use those two words specifically. Yeah, I won't go into why those are relevant. Ooh, losing my voice already. A little early for that, but we'll be going into that in a bit. Of course, we've got a little bit of housekeeping. Blackwatch Report, of course, is always keeping up with their Tier 2 and contenders, Tier 3, all the above, Fran Tournament. Make sure you're checking them out on their own feed and on Twitter at Blackwatch Report. No O's there. None. Could not buy a vowel. Could not afford to buy a vowel there for Blackwatch Report on Twitter. But make sure you're checking them out. Support Tier 2. One of the best ways to support Tier 2. I don't care what anyone says. Support Tier 2 by watching Blackwatch Report because they are they're keeping it steadfast and keeping you up to date there. And especially since so many potential Overwatch League pros are dropping out of Overwatch League, as we'll talk about in a bit. These Tier 2 players are going to be in the pros potentially very soon. So there's that. And of course, as always, huge shout out to our executive producer, Bungee Bamboo, again, who supported us over at patreon.com/highnoonpodcast. Make sure that if you want to, you can certainly jump over there and show us some support just like they did. So, with that said, let's jump into what we did this week. Death, anything fun and exciting for you?
Yeah, well, I played a little bit of Overwatch. I tried to get back into it without the hero pools. I gotta say, it really, really did a number on my desire to play, which is really, really unfortunate. I'm already missing them quite a bit. But that led me into jumping back into Sea of Thieves this weekend with Bob and Mel. So had a ton of fun playing that. Really, really good time over there. So I'm probably going to be playing that a little bit more. Been trying to throw the stream on every now and then, but I usually, like I've mentioned, kind of use it for clips and stuff like that. And that's really something I kind of only want in Valorant at the moment, but who knows, maybe I throw it on for, Sea of Thieves or Overwatch groups or something like that one of these days. So keep an eye on that. I won't make you try to figure it out this time. It's twitch.tv/D3ATH_BL0W. Just follow me on Twitter. I'll link you to it at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so been having a lot of fun with that. We also took our first swing at kind of a YouTube collaboration project that we're working on, Blevins.
Yeah.
So it's the two of us. It's I Play Games and it's Drift Seeker, who's a virtual reality YouTuber that you'd know if you hung out with us and played with us.
Yeah.
Separate groups, but
or if you
maybe not
top-headed toad characters, that's also.
Yeah, and I know he's done some other appearances on some other Overwatch podcasts, I think, as well. So yeah, it's somebody that's been around a little bit, but yeah, kind of made it in YouTube doing virtual reality stuff. And a friend of ours, so we're all kind of grouping up, and we want to get some YouTube content out there that's like a collaboration of all of our gameplays. I want to edit things together a little bit, like an esports broadcast might, and it's going to be variety gaming, so we're going to be playing a couple different games, things like that. If you're interested, please do check it out. We'll all be streaming on our specific Twitch channels, tweeting out, multi Twitch
Yep.
links and things like that, so you can watch all the perspectives at once. And yeah, we'll post links to the first couple like videos that go on YouTube in the off-topic section of the Discord, so you can get links to that there once those do go live. Excited for that. Yeah, we started recording that Saturday, but had some tech problems and stream issues and stuff that we needed to get figured out. So we'll probably be back with that this coming Saturday.
We'll be playing some more. So
yeah. How about you, my man? What'd you do this week?
Oh, the same old stuff as always. Casted actually 2 different Legends of Runeterra events. So I've been going pretty hard in that. It's been fun.
You're getting a lot of casting work there. It's great.
Yeah, it's a game I've really it just like scratches the same itch as Magic in a lot of ways for me, or at least a very similar one, and like even more like TFT kind of did that, but the community, and I'm sure you feel this way too, Death, the community is very different from the Magic the Gathering community in TFT. Like it is the league players that are playing TFT.
Yeah, they like galaxies. I don't think
they like a lot of things. They like a lot of things that are they like. It's very clearly the league players, and like I won't even
league players looking for a casual, fun but kind of competitive experience.
Yeah, but even like the competitive players are a lot of them. A surprising number of them are like old, either like Heroes of the Storm pros or people who played League. Or like, so it's like it's a different type of community, which is fine. Like I have no qualms with that, but Legends of Runeterra community feels way more, at least like it feels way more like it branched from Magic the Gathering or like the competitive card game specifically community, which is where we obviously came from. So it feel a little bit more at home there in some ways.
There are people.
Yeah, there are people. That being said, on the show we had Hugs, the pro melee player, on who's competing in Legends of Runeterra competitive.
Okay.
So kind of random, but he's a super cool guy. Really enjoy. I've been a fan of him since like 2009, so it was really cool actually meeting and talking to him. He's just a super cool guy. But yeah. Same old other stuff as well, just continuing on and being very mediocre to bad at Valorant, though I feel like our stream session, like I had actually warmed up beforehand and like started off pretty good. And then, of course, in the second half.
Yeah, you were the only one of us playing even remotely close to well, which is exactly the opposite.
Right,
of,
so we had to trash that footage.
If you're wondering what our technical difficulty was, it was that Blevins was on top of the leaderboard. So we called Riot. They agreed that something was wrong with the server, and so we just shut everything down. Yeah, that was definitely
good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, definitely check out all that good stuff. If you want links, you can hit us up on Discord or check our Twitters. It's all there. But enough about us. We're boring. We're boring boomers, and this isn't the Boring Boomer cast. This is the Overwatch League cast, and we'll be talking about some news there right now. News. So, Death and I talked about this beforehand, and we both came to the very same conclusion that unless something, for whatever reason, changes in our opinion, or there's something special about these Overwatch League player retirements, we don't have anything additional to say to them. So we're going to report them to you, but the fact that Gray's retired from professional Overwatch, Corey is retired from the Washington Justice and professional Overwatch, and Stratus is moving to a content creation role within the Washington Justice organization. We have elaborated extensively on our opinions of the players leaving right now with Sinatra and with Hip. So Hip and
TLDR, Kelix too. Yeah, the Kelix, TLDR it sucks. We're sad to see all of them go. We think it's probably a mistake, and we don't want to just keep harping on it and keep bringing up those kind of topics, everything like that. So copy paste from those conversations.
I don't mind talking about it. It's just we don't have anything new. So check out episodes 206 to 208. I think is where we talked about it, where it started, and check out to episode 208. Was it was it really last episode? Feels like it was so long ago.
Last episode was at least
Was Sinatra
Alex and maybe Sinatra, I think. Yeah.
Check out somewhere
Feels
between
like
episode 206 and 208 to get our
it's hard
thoughts
to
on
know
that.
because even these retirements tend to happen one day after we record, so it
Right.
feels like it was 2 or 3 weeks ago,
That's
but it
true.
was one episode ago.
That's true.
But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely come up multiple times in the last 3 episodes.
Yep.
So check it out.
Nothing new there. So those happened. Punk has joined the Boston Uprising, which I believe puts them at almost a league at the league minimum. It puts them close to it or at it.
Led to believe the league minimum is moved to 7 for the year.
Sure.
So there was that change.
Yeah.
So they were good before. Technically, we learned after complaining about it for a while. Like I think it was somebody from Florida mentioned in like a reply on Twitter or something that it was actually 7 for this year, and that the change was made public but just not like announced. So it was missed by most people.
Gotcha.
Essentially. But yeah, now they're to 8, which is better for them, obviously. And Punk is a tank player, an off tank. So we're looking at possibly competition for Bruson's role. And I also believe this was a player that was part of the Uprising Academy previously, and is kind of a bit known in the organization. Although also, I believe similar to Halo, their last signing's been inactive for a minute. So Boston seems to be able to pull players back in a little bit and kind of bring them back to Overwatch. So credit where it's due. This is all they are ever going to get from me.
Right.
If that's what if they're able to do that, then that's great and good for Overwatch as far as the rest goes. But yeah, it looks like Punk was on the Uprising Academy from December, the day after Christmas in 2018, for about a year. So he's been inactive for 6 months or so. I think that's when Uprising Academy split. He is, I believe, a dual citizen player from Australia, also a U.S. citizen, maybe. Liquipedia shows both countries, and I believe that's what that means. So yeah, a very interesting signing. And I don't know a ton about this guy, if I'm being perfectly honest, but spent some time on Sydney Drop Bears in the past, and yeah, it's just a region I haven't followed super closely. But we will have to wait and see. I can't imagine it's something that makes a marked difference on the outcome of the season or anything like that. But I'd be very curious to see how he fits in with the team if he gets in on stage. Bruson as a player, I thought was maybe better than he appeared. Judging just by team performance is really tough, and I think especially in the off tank role, you tend to look really bad as an off tank player if your team stinks, and even if you're completely fine. Go watch the first couple weeks of Mecco on Houston. He wasn't a bad off tank player. He just had a rough time because the team was really struggling around him. And I think that's something that has kind of followed Bruce in and a little bit might affect Punk as well. So something to keep in mind as we watch. But well known for Sigma, Diva, Roadhog, Zarya, all that. He's been part of World Cup teams for Australia in 2018 and 2019. It's another place you can see some of his gameplay. So yeah, we'll see how that translates to Overwatch League. We've seen Dreamer come in and do pretty well this year, I think. So hopefully another good look for the region might open up some opportunities for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I did just mention that we weren't going to comment more on the retirings, but something to the sort of the inverse of that is that people are retiring, there's spots opening up. There's opportunity for these players, that are in tier 2 to jump up, like you mentioned when we were talking about Blackwatch Report. And, not everyone has the same opinion as these players that are retiring. Some people might, be pushing even harder. If I'm a tier 2 player or tier 3 player, I'm seeing a player like Sinatra or Corey to retire. It's like, man, that's a spot on a roster that I could have. So I might see, I think, even though some angles of it might see it as a negative, I think we might see people be doubling down on competitive Overwatch and really pushing it, and might be pushing it in different ways because we've seen, the old guard is phasing out in a lot of ways. And and people
You
are
buy, you
retiring.
buy stocks when they're low. You sell them when they're high.
Right.
So yeah, hopefully we do see that, and I think we will with a lot of players. And,
Yeah.
I think we saw that pay off to give us a good segue into the next line here.
Exactly.
Paid off really well for some of the old guard names right here. I'm about to say a name that I never would have thought was in Overwatch League at any point, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but has been tied to competitive and professional Overwatch since professional Overwatch was Hex and ZP, and in ZP's basement
before it was professional.
Yeah. Roolf is in Overwatch League, part of the Vancouver Titans, along with Dalton, Suna, KSA, or Kasa. I don't know. Don't know which way that's supposed to go. Shred. I prefer Kasa, but I heard the casters saying KSA. There's two A's. I don't know how you're supposed to say KSA when there's extra letters. Anyways, I'll digress. Kasa and Shredlock are the tanks here, and then Karkar and Roolf is the support line. Roolf is an old name. I copy paste the meme I sent you not long ago for a Buffalo MTG tweet. But that's a name I've not heard in a long time. So great to see him there. This is the Titans roster that we kind of told you guys was coming, though nobody had. It's in large part Second Wind. So you've got Dalton, who comes from there. I'm looking to see Tasuna does not. Tasuna comes from Disaster most recently. He was also on Eternal Academy, British Hurricane, Young and the Beautiful. Kasa is an interesting player. He's our first Saudi Arabian competitor in the Overwatch League, and he's been playing from Saudi Arabia on his ping. So keep that in mind. He is another one of these dual citizen players as well, so he should have no problems getting a visa and getting into North America to compete a better ping. Just hasn't happened yet, so he's had to kind of make do and play from there. Previously from Raspberry Racers, I didn't know that was a team.
Nope.
And Young and the Beautiful. So congratulations to him. I thought he had a pretty decent debut. Shredlock comes from Second Wind. Karkar was on Atlanta Academy previously on Second Wind, farther back in his research. He was an active member of Fusion Academy. He was one of the loaned players on Sky Foxes. If you followed Tier 2, you're familiar with Karkar's name.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he stacks up in the league. And then Roolf, this man's been around literally since 2016. He's a Canadian player. From Second Wind. He was on Gladiators Legion. He played on C9 prior to Overwatch League. Method, One Shot. He's been in the World Cup for Team Canada in 2016 and 2017. Old school flex support.
Old school.
So I was very pleasantly surprised to see that name called up. I think we threw him around a little bit in the expansion drafts.
He definitely
I don't think
up.
anybody took him, but he was like on our list at the time, I believe. Or actually, no, was he the one? Did somebody take Roolf and not Dogman, and that was why Dogman tweeted at us and was all mad? I think that might have been
it probably was, and it was probably you. It sounds like that was you.
The thing Dogman would be. Oh, hey, nobody did it. I think Kyle was the biggest one to blame. I'm sticking with that.
I mean,
story.
I'm pretty sure I took
Kyle win
Dogman.
and just say Roolf.
Yes, there's the thing.
We got to do that at the end of the show. Got to do.
Forget I said that, and remember I said it later.
Well, we'll say that again later. But so that's your Vancouver Titans roster. They had the debut this weekend. We'll spoil some of those notes. They did get 3-0'd by Florida. And they lost 3-1 to the Washington Justice. But Blevins, how much of them did you get to watch? What did you think of the Titans debut here?
I didn't see a ton of their matches, but it's to be expected, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing unexpected. I mean, taking a map, granted off of Washington, that's really not looking great. I mean, they're coming in as the lowest team, because they just haven't played a single map of Overwatch League beforehand. They're coming in completely, at least recently, unexpectedly, right? It's not like at the beginning of the year, it's like, hey guys, be ready to play in Overwatch League mid-season because there's going to be a global pandemic and the team's going to quit or mutually part ways or whatever they said. It's they weren't ready for this at all, and they're kind of coming together. Some of the players are playing on weird ping. They haven't necessarily all played together before. All sorts of different things. Like if they got a win, it would have been the talk of the week by a wide margin. People would probably be skyrocketing them in the ratings just because that's how that's how people work. They performed exactly how we expected. They picked up a map against a terrible team. They got beat by Florida, who prospective first seed going into the May tournament. But I think small sample size. They haven't had time to play together. They have never played in real life together, et cetera, et cetera. Like they're set up to fail. So in the same sense that we talked about Valiant at the beginning of the year, any sort of success is going to be huge. And it's obviously a building year because they literally ripped out the entire team and brought in a new one.
Yeah, all things considered, I thought they acquitted themselves pretty well. It was an impossible task, right? There's no
Right.
way they were going to show up and dominate or anything like that, even with some of the easier matchups possible. And really, I did my best too. I gave them the pred. I didn't even know who they were at the time. I just blind picked them against Washington. They competed there. It was 3-1. I think taking a map is important. They really got to find their legs, find some teamwork. They're a little bit of a combination. And listen, I know there's other podcasters, content creators, and people that'll sit there and tell you about how Overwatch League teams are losing to contenders teams, and sure, maybe that's true. There might be a couple teams in Korea, I think, that could probably take some games and some matches off some Overwatch League teams. I think most of them could probably beat up Boston pretty good. But outside that outlier, there's a reason that the tier 2 players are still in tier 2.
Right.
These other players have elevated themselves and stood out and already been here. So it's going to take some time. It's with any of them. Any team that undergoes a shakeup like this, where they're bringing in all fresh faces. This isn't between season 1 and season 2 anymore, right? There wasn't a runaway holdout that was sitting there,
right,
trying to get signed as a full roster, so they
Mhm.
didn't join in the inaugural season because some of their guys were under 18, right? Like that was a one of a kind scenario. That not something we're likely to ever see again. Possible, sure. You can't rule anything out. It's video games, and kids are kids, and prodigies at video games, and it could happen. But I think what you're more likely to find is individual players, and it would take you time to build through the tier 2 system this way. And by all accounts, I think Vancouver did a bang up job considering the amount of time they had, right? They didn't have the luxury of choices. They couldn't wait out visas from other regions. They had to get a team in to play this weekend. And I think they picked up a solid group of players. Some players like Dalton, I think very specifically, was one that I think could have just been signed regularly. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he pans out. Not to throw any shade at the other ones, but some of them are definitely I think holdouts, or temporary fill-ins. Roolf, I'm sorry, bud. Like I prove it. Let's see it. I'm rooting for you, but I'm guessing you're probably going to be dropped at the end of the season. Things like that. And that's what Vancouver's dealing with at the moment. And I think when you see them play, as long as we're getting competitive matches from them going forward, it's what we can really hope for and expect for. And I think if they can spend this season identifying a couple of pieces they want to build around and keep, and then fill in the rest of the gaps from free agents, or you trade for people when the economy is maybe in a little better of a better spot after the pandemic's over and quarantines are done. They're playing the 2021 game right now.
Oh, sure.
Not the 2020 game. So we'll have to adjust our expectations for them going forward. A drastic shift from what it was when it was Hacksall and Fissure, and Jae Hong wasn't even starting because Twilight's so good. And, there's a lot of sticker shock here, but all things considered, it's kind of like London, right? Like, yes, it's a big departure from what they had, but it's not an altogether hopeless bunch of guys that came in. There's some talent here, and let's see if they can find a way to use it.
Absolutely. And again, like, even though, like, if you've been watching Overwatch and been following the Overwatch scene as long as we have, it does, and comparing it to other esports, it feels like it's like, oh man, Overwatch came out in 2016. It's been in alpha in 2015. It's 5 years now. Come on, man, this game's so old. It's like, yeah, but this is the third season of the league. What Super Bowl did we just have, Death? What was it, 50 something?
I don't know. I don't track the numbers. They put them up in the Roman numerals, and I'm not smart enough to do that math.
It's
so
50
I just
something.
Shrug at it.
And they certainly didn't start off the NFL in football with Super Bowl. So it's,
Bob's in chat. He knows his team won this one.
Yeah.
Bob, what number Super Bowl did your Chiefs win? 2 and what?
Well, the MLB or baseball, competitive baseball, over 100 years, like 120, 150 years or whatever. Yeah, we're a little out from that, right? Like, and these teams, again, it's all about, yes, the season itself is important. Yes, building all these things. It's about building the foundation for the league, for the team brand identity, all that stuff over time. It's not right now. And obviously the Titans were put in a precarious situation, and I think they did a fine job with what they
52 was
52. Okay. So there we go.
Yeah. And to clarify, they did not do a fine job in handling their initial roster. All accounts, all reports, everything came out of that was a tire fire. But what they're doing since then, where it will separate it, there's a clear line in the sand and a drastic shift in the organization. And all they can do after losing that roster is build from nothing and start over. So we'll just have to analyze them. It's up to the fans. Ready Set Pwn podcast will walk you through all the heartbreak if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it. And I don't know what that would do to me if I was a Vancouver fan and that happened and I watched them handle, like, I do not know. But as a non-Vancouver fan, it's fine with me. All right, reset button hit. Let's figure it out from there. I'm just in analyst mode, basically.
I think I'm trying to put it in the perspective of if this happened to NYXL. And I think in the short term, it's going to suck. There's nothing that can change.
It almost did, right? Because Mecco's as good as 6 players.
Shut up. He's dead to me. He's trash. He's garbage. Houston sucks as well. Traitor. Filthy traitor. So mad now.
You can't even pick up his thought.
I don't even remember what I was talking about. No. It's going to suck in the short term. But again, take a step back, thinking big picture. Are we really, if you're a Vancouver Titans fan, are you going to care about? It's a little bit different because you made it so far. It's going to be tough. It's going to suck. There's no two ways about it. Like, it's going to suck now, but hey, you're starting it off again. You're building something. You're building your team back up, and we'll see. They could be. It's going to be obviously a different look, right? Completely different set of players. Maybe in 5 years, 2 years, next year, and maybe it's a better thing. I don't know. Maybe not a better team, but it could be something great. Who knows? It sucks in the short term, no matter what. Like, there's no way around that. But you deal with what you got. You deal with the hand that you're dealt.
All right. Well, what happened last week, Blevins?
Yes, we'll move on and talk about some cards that were dealt to us last week.
It's tournament talk.
Started off the week with a Seoul is just so hard to predict. Seoul wins 3-2 over the Shanghai Dragons. London Spitfire, we hadn't seen in quite some time, wins 3-0 versus the Chengdu Hunters. Guangzhou Charge, boo, wins 3-1 versus NYXL, boo. Paris Eternal winning 3-1 over the Los Angeles Gladiators. Washington Justice, as we mentioned before, wins 3-1 over the Vancouver Titans. Atlanta Reign winning 3-0 versus the Houston Outlaws. LA Valiant winning 3-0 versus the Boston Uprising. Shanghai Dragons winning 3-0 versus Hangzhou Spark. Guangzhou Charge winning 3-1 versus the London Spitfire. Philly Fusion 3-1 over the Dallas Fuel. San Francisco Shock takes down Toronto Defiant 3-1, and Florida Mayhem beats the Titans 3-0.
A lot happened this week.
A lot.
Let's start right at the top. What are the Seoul Dynasty Blevins? How do you rank them or view them going forward after an abysmal showing last week and then showing up this week and able to take down the region's top dogs in the Shanghai Dragons? Remember, we're an audio show.
I know. I know. For those who are not looking at my camera right now, I have everyone's second favorite host, the Coin. And how do you predict the Seoul Dynasty? How do you possibly do it?
It's funny because you can make the argument they're meta dependent, but I would also make the argument that a Winston meta would be Gesture's kind of softest spot. But they, if I'm remembering the match correctly, I think they leaned on a little bit of the double shield and played with the Orisa and the Sigma. At least I was watching it at 4:00 in the morning. My apologies. Could have been. I know they played Marvel at the main tank, or the second tank position, which I kind of hate. I don't understand why you're not playing an off tank in your off tank role, but so yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to. They're really difficult to pin down. I'm leaning more towards them just coming back off of the break and stumbling. You know, we talked about that in the past, so it's really hard to go from I haven't played in like what was it, a month and a half
we were able to see them in real life is when the last time we saw them.
Right. You know, and every team's going to handle that differently. You know, Seoul stepped back, or not Seoul, London stepped back and didn't blink even a little bit and just 3-0'd Chengdu and told them to sit down. And it didn't work that way for Seoul, but I don't think there's any way they're as bad as we saw them last week. Right. And I think they're a team that certainly on paper has the talent to be right there with Shanghai. So listen, I'm not big on the May tournament, but I think one of the best things that can come from the May tournament is really figuring out where Seoul is compared to at least the rest of their region now, right? So I'm really at least looking forward to that, you know, getting more of a feel for what they are and what they're going to be for us this season, because they could really shake things up in a league where it's, or in a season where it's really hard, I think, to pin down any kind of elite top tier teams as somebody that's unbeatable. You know, like we've seen in the past from New York in the regular season was near unbeatable. And then you had San Francisco and Vancouver last season. It just, it feels like that's the kind of the way it should be. And I think that those are over time going to prove to be the unrealistic outliers. Performances, especially now with hero pools forcing some added diversity and you know, bringing the complete Overwatch teams to the top of the list instead of the ones that are the best at the meta of the year, the meta of the stage. It's definitely a much different scenario. You know, it feels more like we're playing or watching something like the MLB or the NHL, in that they play a large number of games and every team, you know, I forget the exact numbers in baseball, how many games they play or whatever, but it's like
or something like that.
Yeah, it's like everybody loses 40 games, everybody wins 40 games. It's what you do with the other 40 games that define your season and make up who you are. And I think that that's kind of what we're looking at here with Overwatch League and in its current form, and that's makes for some very exciting and fun weeks and outcomes, and we're seeing that with Seoul, I think, right now, though a little bit to the chagrin of their fans, as they don't know if they should be mad and want to demand change or signings or something, or hold the course, let them get better. And again, they're just changing their roster up a little bit too much to make things tough. But more on that. I mean, that's just one result from Seoul. I don't believe they played again this weekend. No. So we'll have to keep an eye on them going into this next week. But the other Chinese region match that we saw this week, Blevins, Gotta bring it up.
Yeah, I know.
Did you see Nero's tweet after the match?
No, I didn't see the tweet after.
It said easiest 5-0 of my life. That's
Did he really say that?
No, of course
Okay.
he didn't say that.
I was gonna say I will fight him. I'll walk to Guangzhou right now.
But Guangzhou's on a roll. For the placement matches, they are actually above the Shanghai Dragons in their region for the May tournament at the moment.
Wow.
The only undefeated team in the region. And they're doing this without their new starting main support in Neptuno, who had visa issues and had to leave the team temporarily, and brought Chara back in. So what did you see in that New York match? Is Guangzhou for real? Do we have to take them seriously as a competitor to the Seouls, the Shanghais, to the best teams in the Asia region?
Absolutely. Yes, NYXL. So on the one hand, NYXL, they did the classic NY thing where they just say, oh, okay, hero pools, all right, meta, yep, okay, they're going to be playing double shit. Let's just play Genji. Let's put Who Are You on Genji and just jam it, right? Because Who Are You's a god, and that's fine. Let's just put Jonak on Zenyatta and on Baptiste, and he can just frag as a support. We don't care. Well, it turns out that just doesn't work in certain metas. And like we've seen many other times from NYXL in pockets, they are not so far above in skill level compared to the other teams that they can just say, I don't care what you're doing, I'm just going to outplay you. There were points in time where that maybe happened. Who Are You did pump off on Genji a couple of times, but like Jake encapsulated it pretty well in on, I believe it was the King's Row map, where it's like, yeah, the nano blade is good, but if you need to get a nano blade in order to win a fight every time, you're not going to win a map. Like,
you don't finish the map that way.
You don't finish the map that way, and you don't win an entire map by just getting that and charging that up and doing it. That would be that would be like old Beyblade way back in the day.
Or it's like a strategy you'd employ on like Temple of Anubis, right? Where you just need to win the team fight to break open the point, and then that ends it. But like on King's Row, when you lead out and start the map that way, you've got to build up 2 ultimates in order to take first point, and then every time you take a fight after that, you're so disadvantaged. It's really rough.
Yeah, so it was some of that. I mean, we also talked before the show about the choice. They played SBB on the first map, and then they went Who Are You Libero. They played SBB Libero, I believe, in map 1, and then they went Who Are You Libero for the following maps. And you said
Libero, Are you?
Libero Are You? Who are Libero? I don't know. Libero Are You is the closest one. But you said it, and I tend to agree, Death. They look better with SBB, whether it's maybe it was just an onstage thing or what, but they're pulling a little bit of a soul where they keep switching it up, and it's like, is it Who Are You? Is it Who Are You Libero? Is it SBB Libero? Is it SBB Who Are You? Maybe it depends on the meta, but again, if NYXL doesn't care about the meta, just play your guy that you're going to play. Don't keep swapping them out. Don't keep futzing around. Just commit. I think even if SBB is better now, but your long-term plan is to go Who Are You, just play Who Are You. Like, sorry, SBB. Like, let's get him in. Let's get him the reps. Let's get him up to snuff. If it's not going to be him, if maybe that's longer term, but you need SBB now, play SBB. Don't keep futzing around and swapping them. I want to see a commitment. But regardless, I think there needs to be like more consideration to the meta, more consideration to the other things, because like the strategy that they employed this match, it's just not going to work. And then the flip side of that is that Guangzhou actually is quite good. I think Guangzhou did perform quite well. It was not just NYXL throwing. I think that NYXL did some silly things at points, but like even when that happens, NYXL can beat a much worse team. Guangzhou Charge is not a much worse team. They are absolutely a real team right now. We saw some really good performances by them, and I think that they're a contender. They have the ability to beat any of the other teams in that region.
Yeah, for sure. I've been kind of tooting their horn a little bit all through even the off season.
Yep.
I'm really do like Neptuno, and I've got to be perfectly honest. I think they're performing better now with Chara out there, and I don't know exactly the reason for that. I believe they're calming in English, so I don't think it's like a language barrier
Right.
problem or anything like that with Korean players not able to understand the comms from the Western main support or something. But I mean, Chara was a player on this team all last year, and when we talk about signing new players or trying to make additions, we almost always want the team to keep their player from last year, right? Because they have that pre-established synergy. It gives them something really solid to fall back on, and I'm guessing they do go back to Neptuno when they get him because I do believe him to be a better main support player overall. But right now, there's a little more synergy, just a little more that's carrying over from last year, and as where they're trying to learn it and get there. And you can see that it was happening with Neptuno, but now just things are clicking a little better, and maybe it's timing and it's just a bit of a mirage. But specifically to your point about New York, I'm looking at just what some of the comps they were playing, right? And it's like on Kings Row, they're 2 minutes apart, and I'm looking at like mono on Wrecking Ball with the Genji and the Doomfist, and then 2 minutes later, and the same point of the same map, it's Orisa, and then it's May and Torbjorn together, and they're just all over the place,
Yeah.
and they seem to be a little lost, and Guangzhou right now is just not having those identity problems, and I really do kind of think that's what it is for New York. Last season, and even though it wasn't the best season, but in season one it was the same. And they had a firm identity. They were the defensive team. They were the ones that sat back, and you could initiate on them fine. They were just going to be really smart about their cooldowns and how they managed the team fight, and they would back up a little bit and go back in when your cooldowns were worn off, and they had the opening and the advantage again. They were just really smart, and now they're trying to play a little more aggressively, and they're playing two flex DPS players, which leaves you a little ill-equipped. So like, listen, if you're playing two guys that can't pick up McCree right now in this meta, and McCree's not banned, I think there's a problem with your lineup.
Right.
And same to be said for Tracer. When you get the opportunity, and Tracer's really good, and looking on the second map, that's the one they won in that match. It was the one SBB was in for, and he was there on the Tracer, and he was making some really good plays. And I think that they just look better when he's there to kind of direct them. And also they just had better comp synergy and possibilities with those two, right? Libero's the jack of all trades, but the master of none. And I personally want to see SBB, who are you, just go here. And if there's specific heroes like May or something that you really want to play, and who are you's bad at them, which we've seen, then okay, swap in Libero for who are you and make that switch. If there was some reason where SBB was really performing, okay, bring Nene in. Now Nene's inactive at the moment for medical issues or whatever. He's not an option. But that to me just means it's got to be SBB at all times, because I don't think you can put yourself into a King's Row match where you just aren't capable of going to and playing an adequate McCree.
Right.
That's what Guangzhou did to shut them down. And it's just, to me, was a big oversight for them in kind of how they managed their roster and their lineup this weekend. But I think what you were trying to say originally is just that they were sandbagging for the May tournament was what you were going for. So yeah, this was a surprising result, one I didn't pick, even though I've been high on Guangzhou, and able to see some of the problems with New York, but I don't think this was one you could really see coming. So just shout outs to Eileen, who's playing really, really strong alongside Nero for Guangzhou. This is a little bit of New York's not at the top anymore, and Guangzhou's better than people realize, and continuing to improve as they get used to this. They might be the team that adapts best to hero pools in the new environment of the season, and kind of goes from there. And I'm here for it. I think it's a lot of fun to see them play, and to watch just Nero go off on every character ever. And Shu is such a playmaker. And I've been wanting to see Happy, but Eileen's been playing so well that I'm fine with it. Let's see him.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to see it against NY, but also like I'm in the same boat. Let's see.
It's regular season, and even for the tournament, the placements don't matter. You just have your
Right.
harder games early, and then if you
Right.
take those, you're gonna have to take those teams out to get your 3 wins at the end of the tournament,
Right.
anyways.
Yep.
So seeding doesn't matter too much. That's why we haven't actually gone on like a main topic rant about Florida yet, but it's coming. Don't worry, we'll make those jokes soon.
Yeah, it'll certainly be coming. I'm looking at the rest of the matches here, and nothing really jumps out to me as too crazy. I mean, we talked about it before, the new Vancouver Titans team not really taking anything. Everything else was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was a fairly competitive weekend. I think some of the score lines don't really say that. Maybe it's a little wishful thinking, but I thought Houston played Atlanta well, even though it was a 3-0 in Atlanta's favor. Same to be said for Dallas. I thought they gave Philly a solid fight, up 3-1, so whatever. And Toronto in their loss to San Francisco, I thought was a good showing for Toronto there as well. Cruz in his debut for the Defiant boys. I thought he looked pretty strong, and maybe the team looked better than we've seen in a couple weeks, though they did lose to San Fran, and it was a little San Fran didn't look like they were taking it the most seriously. But at the end of the day, like, they were just saved. They were about to like go down. I think it would have been 2-1 at the time. Had Toronto won that Kings Row map, and then Moth just with the boop from of doom from a Bolivia. Like, it was the most savage thing I've ever. Like, I was like sitting there clapping, like, we got it. We're doing it. We're gonna get this map. Let's go. I was pumped. And then just a halt comes in, a boop, 3 people into the little pit in Kings Row, point 3, and you're just no. Like, it was just, it was heartbreaking to see, and huge, massive play from Moth to save the whole match and to change the whole tone and everything of the way that match played out. I really think without that one play from Moth, and Smurf was out there, I believe, at the time. The two of them together, big, massive brain play, just huge moment. That really changed the entire feel and course of that match, from being a potential upset. So the scores looked a little one-sided, but watching the matches play, that wasn't really the case. It was, I think this weekend's meta was great. Like I said at the top of the show, I really liked it. It felt like there was 2 styles. There was the bunkery, almost double shield, if not Orisa Diva compositions, and then there was the teams that wanted to play Sombra based dive comps. Not as much Echo as I wanted to see, unfortunately, but it's hard out there for an Echo with McCree's running around, but that's good. Counters are good, and people will get much better at Echo over time, and we'll see more and more of it. Nobody played Brig correctly when it started debuting in Overwatch League. But nobody plays new heroes correctly until they've been out for a while, until somebody masters it and figures it out and teaches everybody how to do it on stream or something. We'll have to keep an eye on that hero, because she does feel maybe not overtuned anymore. That was the initial release, was very overtuned, but she does feel very powerful and very impactful. And I think teams may have missed some opportunities this weekend where their counter for her wasn't out there, and they could have switched to it and taken a point or gained some advantage by it, by being a little more fluid and willing to switch to it. So we'll see if that continues.
The Anna was also debuted like underrated heavily, and then people figured her out, and then had to get nerfed down pretty bad back in the day, for all you old timers that remember when Anna was released. But let's move on here, and all right, let's talk about the hero pool. Death, I think the moment many have been waiting for some time. May is banned alongside Tracer, Orisa, and Moira. What do you think about the meta that's coming from these bands?
3 of these bands are like game ruiners. Like, just the fun police are banned this week, and I'm pumped for it. May, Orisa, Moira, get out of my ranked games. This is why I miss hero pools, because I want these heroes out of the meta. I want them to be less prevalent. Not Tracer. that one's a little rough, but at the end of the day, we've got Sombra, we've got Doomfist, we've got Echo now. There's plenty of options for dive. Notice I didn't say Genji, New York. Not really much of an option.
The answer to who are you is
one.
Not Genji, please.
Try the Echo. But yeah, so this is going to be, I think, an interesting hero pool, and one of the times I don't have a strong opinion as to what I think is probably going to be best. And I'm hoping that that's accurate, because I do think there's a good chance for Rhine-based compositions. I mean, he's in a vacuum the best main tank. So there's going to be a lot of teams that just want to pick that up. Maybe McCree Echo combos. It's hard to say how teams are going to want to try and use Echo with more death bally compositions, or we might see some dive with Echo Sombra. But without the Mei, it's interesting. That opens up, I think, if Chengdu wants to go ball crazy for the week, they can. And I think the teams that we see that seem to want to play kind of hack fist dive style compositions, like Toronto, Houston, Chengdu, Dallas, even to an extent. And there's a handful of teams now that tend to operate more to what works for them more than what the meta dictates. And I think we're going to see them continue to do so. Orisa is a big part of the anti-dive sentiment, right? And I think if it comes down to like Rhine Diva versus dive costs, with Echo being there, if they can find a decent way to protect her, if the Mercy pocket in the sky is enough, there's a real opening for that. I also really hope we get to see more Anna this weekend, because Anna's so much more fun to watch and have in your games than Moira. So hopefully that happens. And man, I used to like roll my eyes at people when they complained about Moira, and then Samito was the ultimate guy I'd roll my eye. I'm just going to name him, but he's selling me on how stupid Moira is with every tweet in the world. Like, you can just right click people that aren't on the screen. Like, he's showing it in the practice range where he locks onto something and then
character so much
turns off the screen, and it's still locked onto the character. And like, I don't have much sympathy for the people that died of the damage orb, right? Like, it's play with your diva. Your diva should be, it's a team game. It's frustrating. I get it. But like, you can move away from it, and like, it's geometry, and like, it's sometimes can put you in weird situations. I've been there. It's can be frustrating, but at the end of the day, just because a character is a little frustrating, I don't think means it's bad or anything like that. But I'm being more sold on it, and it's definitely not the most fun thing to have on your team. I like playing Moira. I'll never complain about a Moira meta where I get to suit up and play her.
That's my bread and butter too when I actually play.
Right, but like, I'm also kind of a low-key, I'm like a main tank, right? So Ryan and Winston love to get nano boosted, and like, it's just way more fun as the main tank. So like, it's the play style I want in my games. But if I'm healing, I low-key want to play the Moira myself. So I'm a little torn there, but not torn when talking about watching pro players play. I want to see the Anna. Some of them are nutty. There's big plays, the sleeps, the purples, everything. They're great. And I hope we get to see them back this weekend.
Yeah, that would be good. Definitely like to see the high skill cap supports out there. Always nice. All right, we move on and we talk about the matches as we round out the show here. We start off the weekend on Saturday, early hours for us at least. Seoul Dynasty versus the Chengdu Hunters. Death, do you have a read on this one?
Well, Chengdu has stopped being that kind of consistent performer, but Seoul certainly isn't is very far from consistent at the moment. I just got to look at this one and look at the rosters on paper and remind myself that there's no reason to overthink this one, and that it's okay to just put your chips down on Gesture and Bedosin and Profit and the players that the Seoul Dynasty have. Fitz was phenomenal this past weekend too. I think he might have been one of the more standout performers on Seoul, even next to Profit, which is really hard to say about any DPS player ever. So yeah, I'm obviously not fully convinced that Seoul's back, and I'm not treating them as an elite team or anything like that at the moment. but they've shown the ability to beat anybody if you can take down Shanghai. And I've got to give them an edge here over Chengdu. I'll give Chengdu a map, though, 3-1 Seoul.
Yeah, it is really hard to go against the team that just took down prospective number 1 in the region, Shanghai Dragon. So I'll give Seoul. I'll give them the 3-1 as well. Sure. Next up, we have London Spitfire versus the Shanghai Dragons, and I will be echoing my sentiment of prospective number 1, even though they did lose to Seoul again. Prophet, Jester, battle-hardened, tournament-ready champion, former champions. Nothing to sneeze at, and it was a super close match anyway. Yep. London still, we've seen what did they play? 1 game? No, we saw 2.
They beat Chengdu and lost to Guangzhou.
They went 1-1, and even though that's a whatever performance on the week, we still hadn't seen them for a very long time before that. Shanghai just too consistent. Give them to me. Do I even give a map? I don't even think I give a map to London. I'll go 3-0 Shanghai.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Being able to take out Chengdu is great and all, but they needed to get, if they were going to be able to win this map, they should have been able to have a stronger showing against Guangzhou at a bare minimum.
Yep.
I'll go Shanghai here 3-0.
You were going to say Chengdu, weren't you?
I was very close to saying Chengdu.
I could tell. Next up, we have NYXL versus the Hangzhou Spark. The Spark are not the Charge here. They're not the Dragons. They're not even the Seoul Dynasty, I don't think. And NYXL is still NYXL. Blips or not, sandbagging, whatever you want to call it. I'm still taking my boys 5-0 easy.
Yeah, I don't think Hangzhou should be the worst team in the region, but they're performing like it so far. There was, I want to say, like a surprise. There was an eye-raising result from them recently. It certainly wasn't getting bodied by Shanghai. So it must have been last week. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think there's light at the end of the tunnel for Hangzhou, but I'm going to make them show me first. So yeah, I will go with New York here, and I'll go 3-0 as well.
Yep. For the record, I went 5-0, not 3-0. Next up, we've got the Titans, the newly minted Vancouver Titans versus the Houston Outlaws. And I'll echo what you said, but in a different way. Vancouver's got to show it to us. Even, Houston not been performing the best, but they're still a mid-table team at worst. Give me Houston. I'll go 3-1. I think Titans can pull a map.
Yeah, despite every caster and analyst in the league on the broadcast refusing to give them any credit and talking about Houston like a bottom 2 team right there with Boston, I get it. They played a real stinker of a match, guys. Am I the only one that thinks they sound like idiots when they talk about Houston as one of the bottom teams in the league with Washington and Vancouver? Like, there's some seriously bad Overwatch League teams. You got them bottom 5, that's fine. Talking about them like a I don't know. It feels like solely Sideshow that's like recognized that they're better than they were in the past. It's starting to bother me. But nonetheless, Vancouver absolutely has to prove it. It could happen, but I don't expect it to by any means. Interesting, Houston played Hydration on the main tank a little bit. He came in for some of the Orisa action, which was surprising to me. I thought Muma was one of his better tanks was the Orisa. So I'm monitoring that pretty closely. But yeah, Houston, I'll go 3-0 here. Vancouver has a lot to prove and a lot to get into, get in line here. And while they have players on 200 ping and Houston's looking better and dive seems like it's probably going to be somewhat of an option, like, have you guys seen how good Dante has been playing recently? That dude is a nut, an absolute nut. He just seems to get better every week, every year. I love some Dante. He should be enough to carry them against Vancouver at the moment.
Yep. Next up, we've got Florida Mayhem versus the Washington Justice. And I mean,
Jesus,
Florida's a win streaker here.
How does it happen?
They've been crushing the competition these last few weeks.
Who are they paying to get the schedule like this? Here's their qualifiers for the tournament. Boston. Vancouver, and now Washington. They get to play the bottom 3 teams 4 times for their placement games. Florida's going to have the number 1 seed going into the May tournament, and they are going to finish in the bottom half of it. I won't give them credit to be better than that until they do it against somebody that's not literally 17th or lower in the standings at any given time. Like, it's ridiculous that they've just had this stretch of schedule, and I am physically unable to wrap my head around people that are talking about them like a top end team. Like, I saw a power ranking. I saw a power ranking, Blevins, that had them. I think it was even Flat Chat. I'm just going to throw it out there, that had them like 5.
Wrong.
What? Even if it was just the region, it wasn't. It took out but like, I think it was 5. It blows my mind. They've done nothing. Eye test says they look better. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't look like the truly bad performances that we saw earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But like, where does that put them? Because so far, all they've proven to be is 16th, right? You can't. How can you put them higher than that when? And I'm sorry, 17th, because they haven't beaten the Washington Justice yet. But very likely, right? Stratus and Corey aren't going to be there, and the writing seems to be on the wall. Florida should be a step above them, but blows my mind that they get this cakewalk of a schedule, and like the tournament. I mean, it's an easier path through it. So like, they're honestly probably going to get a free win on their schedule just based off of the qualifying games.
Yeah.
Because the placements are going to mean they play against the worst teams, which means they're going to play against these exact teams they're beating in their qualifiers in the first round. So they're going to get like at least 1 bye, because it's going to be them versus Boston, who will probably be the lowest. I don't know. Houston's pretty far down in the qualification standings because their schedule's been rough over these qualifier games, but man, I don't know. So maybe Florida gets Houston and gets bodied, because I think they're probably in that same area as Houston, right? Houston's not proven to be more than like a lower end mid-table to mid-table team, somewhere in that range. And that's all you can really say about Florida, right? Like, that they're capable of beating the absolute worst. I don't know. It's crazy to me. And chat's pointing out, and they do have a 3-0 against Paris.
True.
Before these qualifications started, that I think does fuel some of that.
Makes
but
sense.
At the end of the day, that was right after Eggsy was done. That was in a Winston meta when Ben Best, and I've been vocal about how awful they are when they don't get to play the Reinhardt. I don't know exactly if the results bore that out, but nobody look at the man behind the curtain. Don't check my stats, okay? I just give them, assume they're right. But yeah, so I mean, to me, that was like, listen, Paris is a mid-table team as well. I think a higher end mid-table team. So when even a lower end mid-table and a higher end mid-table meet, that's still anybody's game, right? There's a reason they both got the qualifier of mid-table teams. So, and it was also like a month ago. So who knows? That's a long time ago to be like propping them up at 5 in the standings because they beat Paris a month ago. That's a little much to me. You've got to sustain it a little bit. It was eye-raising when they beat Paris, but they've done nothing since then to like confirm that wasn't just a hero pool or a weird result or a strong day or a bad day for Paris. And there's a lot of reasons to think it might have been that, right? So little end of my rant. But Houston, pay the same person Florida is for the next qualification schedule, please and thank you.
That being said, Florida 3. I'll give Florida 3-1.
Oh yeah, easiest 3.
The match we were talking about.
I might legitimately like Vancouver's chances for the season more than Washington's after their retirement of Corey and Stratus, because Corey and Stratus at least represented the ability to like pop off within a hero pool. I mean, we'll see what they do. Washington could easily go pick up some old Vancouver players and just be fixed, right? It'd be better than they were before. Very, very possible. But yeah, it's right now with what they have, which is I believe just Tuba at DPS. They're in a rough spot.
All right, next up is the LA Gladiators versus the Boston Uprising. And not much need for analysis here, Death. We've said it before. We'll say it again. A team that is not the Boston Uprising is playing against the Boston Uprising. Therefore, we're picking them to win.
Yep. One's a competitive Overwatch team, and the other one's the Boston Uprising.
Yep. Moving right along. Pick whatever spread you want. It is a LA Gladiators win there. Next up, we've got the Atlanta Reign versus San Francisco Shock. And even though Atlanta did beat Houston here, did beat Houston last week, I'm not seeing them win here. I'll give I think it could be close. I'll give it a 3-2. I think this is a potential flip because, again, Atlanta can pop off at any time. And San Francisco has been better recently, but still has shown signs of being shaky. So I'll give it 3-2 to San Francisco here.
Yeah, like you said it perfectly. Atlanta can beat anybody at any given time. They absolutely have the talent for it, but they just seem to shuffle their roster up and deal 6 cards off the top of the deck to decide who's playing on every given day. They've become the soul of this season. I always punish that in pick'ems, even if it's bad for my overall prediction record. I don't care. It shouldn't be this time, unless they spike really hard. It should be a San Francisco win here. I'll go 3-1. There is more than enough talent on Atlanta to compete and win maps. So I don't want to call it a 3-0, but pick whatever your serious good roster is and let's use it, please. Oh, by the way, it doesn't include Baby Bay.
Yes. Okay. We'll be moving on to the final Sunday matches after a really quick break. All right. Thank you for bearing with us for the in podcast reality, probably about 2 seconds, but the couple minutes on stream. As we move into Sunday, we start off with the Guangzhou Charge versus the Chengdu Hunters. Guangzhou coming off a win last week to NY. Again, we talked extensively about them at the top of the show. Actually looking very strong here. Chengdu still looking inconsistent. Give me Guangzhou here, 3-1.
Yeah, Chengdu just got beat up by London, who got bodied by Guangzhou 3-1 here. So we don't actually seriously use transitive property, but it can be kind of an indicator. And I think in this case, it's a pretty solid indication that these probably aren't teams on the same tier level at the moment, right? Guangzhou's just too hot. Give me them 3-1.
Yep. Hangzhou versus London Spitfire is the next match here. Both have not looked super great. London did take out Chengdu, but I'm still not sold on them quite yet. I'm gonna pick actually Hangzhou 3. I'll go 3-2 over London.
You're going to need that coin because I can't wrap my head around why Hangzhou's disappointing my initial thoughts on what they would be. And like, they just keep disappointing me. It's really rough. So I'm going to go London here 3-1. I do think it's very flippable. I'm not high on either team at the moment by any means. So let's see what the coin says. And if you're a betting man, I don't know, follow the coin. What do we know?
All right. We'll go tails never fails for London. That I forget which ones. I think one is heads. So we're going heads. I forgot. I literally forgot which side was which side I used.
The other side again?
It's the mana crystal for Hearthstone.
Yeah, the one is heads. The one
is heads. Okay, so that means the coin likes Hangzhou here. I literally forgot which side I used for which. I'm so stupid. Coin goes for Hangzhou.
Next. Then assigned after the fact. I love it. The competitive integrity of a coin should be indisputable, but we will always and forever find a way to make coins iffy.
Hey, I showed you what the coin result was. I didn't remember which one it was. Okay, next up is Dallas Fuel versus Paris Eternal. Death, who do you have here?
A really good game. is what I've got here. I think this is potentially match of the week for just the virtue of this is a very serious placement game. I think these are two teams that I put squarely in the mid table of teams right now. We're not going into a meta where Ben Best isn't able to play Reinhardt. I think Dallas has even their tank line has looked really strong across multiple metas, whether it's been dive, they've had their moments in Reinhardt based metas as well. They're being carried by their DPS performance, which is great. Decay and Doha are a whole lot of fun to watch. Support line can use a little work for Dallas. I think they have some issues there for sure. I've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. I think they got better when Closer came in for Harry Hook. When Harry Hook was there on main support, they were probably the worst support line in the league outside of teams that don't belong here, Boston. But otherwise they are definitely a lot more solid there with Closer. I think they've got a real opportunity here. I would like Paris, I think, considerably if like Eggsy was still around, but he's not. So there's an opening here for Dallas. They have a DPS player pop off and carry them to win. That said, Bob's in the chat. Give me Paris 3-2. Listen, though, it's really, really close. Yeah, the pick has nothing to do with Bob and Chad either. I just like giving them a hard time. I got to go with the Eternal here, 3-2. But I'm as close to flipping a coin to give you my answer here as almost any match ever.
I'm flipping it here, Bob. I'll give it to you. I'm burning blue here. Give me Dallas 3-2, which does mean the one is heads.
So hey, we know ahead of time.
We're going tails never fails for Dallas Fuel here.
What?
Ooh, unfortunately, that is a heads. Who are you? Genji main on NYXL. That's the answer.
I'm just saying it's one thing to like be honest about what they are, but it's another thing to like you said I'm burning blue here. You were like
I'm burning blue
said the
for
most
Bob.
positive things. You said the most positive things about Dallas I've ever heard come out of your mouth.
That's true. I do hate Dallas.
I died a little inside and lost some respect for you when that happened.
I'm not gonna say it wasn't influenced by the fact that I miss Bob. I haven't hung out with Bob as much as we have.
You're
lately.
Pandering to Bob.
I'm pandering
Bob,
to Bob.
Clip
exactly.
It. He'll never say it again.
It's true. In fact, screw Dallas. I hate them. They're a garbage team.
I'll clip that.
No, next up, we've got Philly Fusion versus Vancouver Titans. I feel like this is a foregone conclusion. And, Vancouver needs to show it. Philly 3-0.
Listen, we're all going to need a little bit of a break after a very close Fuel versus Eternal match, and this is going to be
palate cleanser. Good palate cleanser. Pub stomping.
It should be brutal. This is going to be a welcome to the Overwatch League moment for the Vancouver Tier 2 Titans.
Yeah. Give him a nice spanking.
Really, if it wasn't clear.
Yeah. With that said, nice spanking from the Fusion should welcome them into the Overwatch League if last week wasn't enough for them. And then the last match of the week, we've got Toronto Defiant versus the LA Valiant. Death, who do you have?
I haven't picked an upset all week, and I'm going to go with it here because I think people are artificially high on the Valiant, and they're switching back and forth between Gig and Dreamer, and so it feels like a coin flip to me as to whether we're not. I like their tank line, right? And so I feel like if Gig's out there, this is an advantage for an opportunity for Toronto who can take the win. I don't love how Toronto's been deploying their DPS players for about the entire season. So it's a little bit rough to make a pick like this when the Valiant have had some good performances, but it's as much closer than people think, right? So in virtue of like, if we had the fan vote, like we've had in years past where we could say like, 85% for this, I think it would be something like that, right? Where it'd be like 85 to 90% picking the Valiant.
That would be a flip.
And in reality, they're more like a 60% favorite or something along those lines. So I'll go Toronto trying to find and predict an upset here. It's just a way for me to be a coward and hedge my bets and not actually make a firm claim. But nonetheless, I'll go Toronto here 3-2, but another very close one. Sunday should be fun.
Definitely super flippable. I'm not picking it. I'll go with Toronto as well. I'll give him a 3-1. I want to give him a nice easy win. even though that's not how it works at all, and it's going to be very hard fought.
And it's wishful thinking.
Yeah, and Valiant is definitely favored here, but that is going to be the end of our show for this week. Death, any last second stuff to talk about before we go into our outro here?
No, but I just can't wait to watch Florida play against a top 15 team, please. Someday soon.
Someday we'll see it. But that is going to be it. Special thanks again to Bungee Bamboo, our executive producer level patron, as well as to all of our other Patreon supporters. Again, you can head over to patreon.com/highnoonpodcast to support the show. Don't forget to join us on Discord as well. We've got a great community there. A lot of regulars, a lot of folks still chiming in, talking about stuff that's going on in the community and in Overwatch League in general. Of course, we also have all of the on-the-minute updates from our folks that are always posting all the news there. Discord.me/highnoonpodcast. You can find us everywhere that you can find podcasts. Search for High Noon Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all of that good stuff. High Noon Podcast there. You can also, if you want, we've got some shirts and other merch on our website, highnoonpodcast.com. Click the shop. It's all there. It all helps us. You can be one of the few that own the HNP shirts. Actually, I need to get a new one. My other one, I've had it for so long and it's been washed so many times, it's getting a little worn out, but that's literally after like 3 years of having it. So all good there. But guys, that is going to be it. Again, thank you for watching. For Deathblow, I am Blevins. And remember, it's high noon.
And he put on his hat, threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time. I find mine.
Okay, guys, now is the time to go into the Discord and at Kyle Wynn and just type Roolf.
Shoe. No, type shoe, because
Type
it was
shoe.
shoe he picked, not Rolf. I'm looking
Shoe.
at the draft.
Okay.
Shoe.
Shoe or Roolf. We'll accept both.
Either one. Schulf.
Schulf.